Hello, hello. How's
Hey,
it
what's up,
going?
Coach? It's going well. How about yourself?
Good. How are you? How's your week been? How's your day?
Busy, busy. I've been actually offline
Okay.
and yeah, and busy, but I'm good. Good busy. How about for you?
Good. I'm
Yeah.
more so curious, busy with what?
Oh, just good
Book?
stuff. Just nope. Just busy in general.
Oh.
Just work, life, staying up the radar, getting recentered, all of that kind of good stuff. Yeah, good stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
is a good busy.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I guess I'll just get us started.
Yeah, you can tell us
You
more
want
about what's going on. We don't. Well, I don't ever. I should say never. It's rare that we know what's going on in your life.
to wait, well, you are specific about what's going on in your life besides being busy.
No, 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 no. I always share. I always share. How do you know I have a book? Because I shared. How did
Touche,
you know? Yeah, yeah,
touche.
yeah.
But
So,
that's
what's
it.
going on in your life? Hold on.
Um,
Hello.
what's? Oh yeah,
Sorry, I had to,
you're
I had to,
good.
I had to send her away. The janitor.
No worries, no worries. What's going on in my life?
Hmm.
Let's see. Well, I mentioned last week I turned 1 year older. Yay! You
Woo!
know.
Yeah.
So it was my birthday last week. So my last of my 20s. So what
Yeah.
else?
It was the
Really
last, or you're
just
in your last?
I'm in my last year of my
All
20s.
right.
Yeah. My
Enjoy it.
29th
Enjoy it.
birthday. I know.
Yeah.
Um definitely having to kind of deal with my thoughts, which don't even matter because it's inevitable. And I am grateful to be another year older. A lot of people, not a lot, but some people don't make it to be this age or whatever. And I
That
always
is
have that
true.
thought when old people are grumpy or they're like, wait till you get older.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
true for me as well. So
Hmm.
um besides that, just growth, just working to grow in so many different areas, whether that's business or fitness or, in my marriage, but also to, hoping to have kids in, a couple years. So
Okay.
what is that? Looking at houses, just adult type stuff. But
Yeah.
as I've shared many times, just the tapering of my antidepressant
Mm.
still going on Thursday is the day
Hmm.
I go down.
Okay.
So it's a part of a special, special aspect of Thursday. So I'm at 14 milligrams and I started at 40. So
Okay.
besides that, really it's nothing crazy.
All right. Well,
Nothing.
good. Good.
You
Good.
better give some specifics besides the book, Doc.
No. See, in my opinion, I I give way more. Like, not every week, but I give way more into what's going on. So like it's just been a week, but my style, me personally,
Hmm.
um, when it comes to like, I'm very actually technically, I consider myself to be very secretive, very yeah. I know you couldn't tell when I'm on the streets here, but those who know me. Plus, consider so my clientele, my patients, and the clientele that I serve have
Yeah,
access to the internet, and they have access
correct.
to now where I live. Every one of my patients, inmates or not, have a right to know all my information. So I don't know about you, but
Interesting.
any provider, any doctor, any of those things, the patients have a
Mm,
right to your information. Well, one, in case they want to sue you or anything like that, they have a right to your, but it's the right to know for the client. school, if your address is public, anything. So part of the reason why I don't talk about kid stuff is because if I don't sign off on that dotted line for some of those inmates or
Why would
offenders
you?
that I work with, now the locked up offenders, it would seem like, well, you have nothing to worry about. Kind of. There have been directors and different people and therapists who haven't signed off, and they call home. Yeah, my therapist so and so and so and so, they didn't sign off, and then that therapist gets a visit at their home. Help some influence and muscle.
Is
So
this a state thing or an agency thing or what?
it should be it is a state thing. It's multiple
Or
states that
federal?
have the right to know. Your patient has the right to know their provider's information.
But it's clinical then?
Medical, your medical doctor, your anything that's listed as a provider. So clinical,
Okay.
medical, you name it. So I know Minnesota, but there are other states that have it. So usually, so these YouTube streets, like, oh yeah, I'll mention some things. And the little kids and stuff. I mean, if someone take them away, good, don't bring them back. But the deal is, kidding. But the deal is, stuff for me, yeah. But like more than that or deeper than that. Plus, and I've already had this experience. My clientele are not the same ones that I talk to here. A majority of my clientele, when they see these shows, they're like, "Oh, this is way more aggressive than most of my clients."
I feel the same way.
Yeah, not the inmates, not those clientele. They love it. That clientele,
Right.
they love it. My other clientele, the ones that's willing to pay $300, $400 a session, $500 a session, that clientele is like,
It's a little different.
yeah. Now they know I'm humorous. They know I'm down to earth. So once they break it down, like, oh, but then it becomes that question, especially this population. Am I serving client? Which is more important to me? Who I am as a black man or who I am as the world out there wants me to be? Because my skill set goes with me. So it doesn't matter who I serve. Who am I? Who am I deep underneath? So when I'm able to come to this community and give back in my way, I understand the risk of other clients saying, oh, we didn't know you talk like that. We didn't know that was your belief. Yeah. That's pretty much what it is. Did you still want the service? I mean, you found me for a reason, or if you heard me before, there's a reason you want to work with me. That hasn't changed. My presentation here may be like, oh. So anyway, so sometimes I'm here sharing, but there's some shows when I'm like, oh, yeah. Do you have kids? And blah, blah, blah. Like, So a lot of the secrecy is not because I don't want to share with you, but it's, these streets here, what's the benefit in it?
Right. No, I 100% get that. And that's definitely been kind of new ground for me to kind of figure out like how I'm going to manage that because of just being on YouTube, but also it is different. Like my messaging is different. Now, of course, I feel a sneeze coming on, so I might have to
let it out. There's more room out than in. Yeah.
I'm trying, but
there you go.
So much better. Okay. But I'm not even gonna like go through my thoughts but it's something I'm still trying to figure out and I don't have the exact answer for and what it looks like, but it is, and it's like, yeah, you do also want to be relatable, but there is a line that you want to not cross,
Right.
So
I mean, but again, if you in the industry wide, I think any of us, this network, any network, once you speak to a topic, once you take a position, there's always risk of someone saying, oh, that's what you believe in. And then in our cancer society, you take a risk at any time someone's saying you're canceled just because of your position on the topic. So So regardless of if I were here, like I don't use the N word. I do not use the N word unless it's something educational, blah, blah, blah. So just even the network and some of the shows that I'm on where they're using it, I'm not using it. Then I can have a client that said, I didn't, So it's not even the words that I say. Sometimes it's just the fact of the affiliation. But I go way back to the Farrakhan days when I remembered if he said if you can't even own the fact that you listen to me, you can't even own the fact that you listen to me. If you're too ashamed to say that you listen to me, So I get to the point if I'm ashamed to like on the network, I'm ashamed to be part of the show and all that, then what am I really then, am I really being authentic to myself? So
Right.
mhm. So
There's a lot to that, especially,
right,
but
right. Listen,
go ahead.
one thing you can always consider though, what we offer, the intent and what we offer. So, there might be people who have pushback about, blah, 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 but what did you hear us talking about? At the end of the day, what are we talking about? So, and do these people not deserve? Does the network and the people we serve and the people who listen to us, do they not deserve to get just as much information or quality information as anyone else?
This really kind of ties into
Exactly.
our show today for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess first we'll welcome everyone in.
Let's give some station identification.
So I will go ahead and say welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network.
Yes.
It is Thursday, so
Woo-hoo!
It is nice. We're breaking the cycle with Dr. Nakumbe and myself, Coach K. And our topic tonight is about fear and that fear of rejection. But first, we did have a super chat. If we
yes,
can,
we have a super chat. Lady Navoa's in the house. Welcome. She gave us a super chat. Thursdays with Doc and Coach. Kanisha, chat. What's up, fam? Yeah. Thank you, Lady Navoa. Woohoo! Now I know she like that chop Boudica or whatever that song is. But
yeah.
What also, we have embraced.
What do we call that?
I don't know the full video. I love the video, but I don't even know the full. I don't know who the entertainers are. Nothing. But I jam to it every time though. I blame BMU, man. I came into the network and they were playing it. I was hooked. Oh God, Coriega. He used to be like, the hell? Every time we were like, the hell? Yeah.
God, I love that part. Are we gonna do any tunes for
what's up with the Lady Navoa? If you have a selection or a choice, or CBN is running the channels, him and BMU. So if either one of you have one of our
my name is Rosa. Say I'm supposed to sit in the back, but I'm tired here, so I'm finna sit right closer. Come get me up then. It's gonna take about 3, 4, 5 minutes. And I ain't finna repeat myself again. Fight me. Somebody get her. My name is Eve. I didn't believe. I trusted Satan, ate that apple, he deceived. And I'm naked. I thought I was awakened. I'm the first to do it. Y'all my daughters, we related. Trick on Big Harry. Don't call me slave hoe. The hell? From the underground, railroad, bustin' down mouth of dope. When I say run, you better go. In the dark, that Glocky glow.
Yeah. Thank you again, Lady Navoa. We have Embraced the Graces in the house. Welcome. Thank you for swinging through. We greatly appreciate that. So thank you again. We have Randy. Randy's in the house. Thank you for being here with us. And what is this?
Right. Shouting out to our supporters.
Absolutely.
But everyone catching either the live stream or the replay, please like the video if you can. It means so much. Does a lot for the algorithm. You can again support the channel through super chats like Lady Navoa did, and then also subscribe too. Please hit that notification bell so you know when we are live. And Black Man Unfiltered Network has a variety of shows throughout the week. So there's got to be something that interests you, but definitely be sure to check that out. Anything else, Tom?
Yeah, Lady Navoa, when did she send that? When did she send that super chat? She sent it at 7:08. We're in the middle of a deep conversation. She's like, "Did y'all see the super chat? We're not gonna let you. You don't think we see? Relax. You don't think we're gonna give you the shout out? You the mod of the year. You
For
think we're just gonna let it
sure.
slide? Y'all see this too? Yeah, we see it. We got
Oh,
you.
we're gonna get to you. Yeah,
Yeah. But you should know already about how our show goes. We do a lot of talking. Don't even see all that stuff until we have a break or
yeah,
a moment. Or Coach K is usually giving the feedback. But trust, we'll catch it. But I do admit I don't always see the chat. But you asking like, did you see it? Don't we got you?
yeah. How can we? We'll never. How can we? But yeah. So thank you for that. So I just want to jump right in. I hope as
Let's do it.
people I guess come in or whatever, but definitely want to get feedback. Maybe drop a link later on if people want to join, but we'll get to it. So we covered fear or confronting fear a couple weeks ago. Now, can you summarize for us? I always make you do this. What you covered, briefly or whatever. When our last show.
In short, and actually, I should tell you, my energy is not. I mean, I have good energy tonight, but fasting all day, so my energy is also low.
Oh.
I mean, but I'm about to eat a horse here in a second, about 20 minutes here in Minnesota. But break fast time. But just saying, my energy is low, not because I'm like, ugh, but just boom. But so what we talked about was trust, and at the core of it, we tap into is trust about jealousy, is trust about this, is it about that, who we trust, how we trust, why we don't trust, where does jealousy come from, where does this idea of of trust comes from. So we really got into it about let's look at that and what does that mean. But when it came down to it, what I recognized over time doing work in the field is that trust is also kind of regulated by fear. So then there's this big fear. And so fear might interrupt, it might dictate, kind of play a significant role in how much I'm willing to trust, how much I'm willing to do, how much in life I'm willing to move forward. And so those limitations on top of any limiting beliefs,
Right.
who knows what I'm willing to do, not willing to do, or who knows how many missed opportunities I have. So when we chopped it up last time, we were talking about how do you take a sledgehammer to that bad boy of fear? How do you bust down some of those walls of fear so you can get to trust? So you will trust more, starting with yourself, let alone others. So limiting fears, not taking action, not being the best you can be because of those fears busting down the walls. And I think part of that conversation is what led you to asking, like, oh, well, wait a second, there's more to it.
Yeah. Well, just exactly what we talked about there, and it's going to play a role here also. But I just get ideas when I'm listening to different shows. In different, there's a topic across some different channels and such, and I think the fear of rejection permeates all areas of life. And I'm going to be speaking broadly about the fear of rejection, and then I'm going to focus more on the relationship side of things. The topic of incels, possibly. Not going to spend too much time, but we'll see where this goes.
Okay. Mr. He Says in the house. Shout out to you, sir.
Hey, Mr. He Said.
Hey, what's up?
Shout out to Mrs. The Missus also. Always want to shout out to her.
Also, or either way, if she's here or not, Mr.
She's
and Mrs.
not, but I always say.
Dust heads, you got it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to start out with, okay, what is fear? So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to Google this and just get a broad definition. So, which is always fascinating too, because it's like we use these words and I'm not saying you, because
Right.
you probably have all these definitions like
No, I use them too.
like,
but please, for those listening, please consider the shift over the years on what mainstream media and even Google might have shifted some of these answers or definitions.
Ooh, yes.
And I learned that the hard way, because I've been doing a presentation for not probably since 2012, 2010 on shame. And I didn't know it by heart, but I knew the term ridiculous. I knew that term was in there because that's part of my spiel about people doing things that are ridiculous,
Oh,
but
ridiculous.
not with intent, but an addict does what they do to maintain the addiction. And so sometimes they do ridiculous things, but it wasn't because they were intentionally being. Anyway, the whole point is, speaking of the missus, she said we were on the show and talking about shame. I think you and I were talking about shame, and she looked it up, and Google said something like foolery and blah, 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 blah. They totally changed that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. That's that definition. But no, and I looked it up like, what the? And so Google has changed, certain definitions, and these Stanford University reports come out. They changed the definition. They changed the words. So yes, let's roll with it. Let's see what you come up with. I may have some pushback, and not that I'm the authority on the word, but I mean, if anything, I just may add some things of what the former definition used to be as well, in case it's changed much.
Oh, absolutely. And that is an unfortunate thing that we have to consider. But sometimes maybe those, I don't want to act like they're always nefarious reasons, but I think a lot of them are. And I think it's just confusing, but I also think it's important to use words, use them appropriately too. Like, I'm never going to police someone, but on this website here, whatever, people say disingenuous a ton, and you're being disingenuous, whatever. And I'm like, what does that word even mean? This is a side note, by the way, not anything to do with rejection, but to me not be genuine. So I would say it means to either leave out information like knowingly, intentionally, or to be insincere. I would say almost to like be dishonest or lie. And the other day, just on a show, and I was just speaking about certain things, and someone said I was being disingenuous, and I said, no, I'm not being disingenuous, because I mean what I'm saying. I'm not intentionally leaving anything out. Now, if you do think I'm leaving something out, you can question that. But just back to the, the definitions, words have them. There's colloquial, I guess, meanings, but I think they're, I try to be intentional when I use different words, especially here. But so fear, now there's the noun and verb, but really fear, the noun is a unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or it's a threat. So the verb form of fear is to be afraid of something, that whatever is dangerous. But when we have the fear of rejection, that means that thing that is dangerous or a perceived threat, likely to cause pain, that is the object of our fear, that we are afraid of. So, and then I looked up, okay, what's rejection? And it simply said the dismissing or refusing of a proposal, idea, etc. And I think, I don't want to move too fast, but I think rejection for a lot of people is, ourselves being, some type of aspect of us is being dismissed, refused, Would you agree with that generally?
For fear or rejection?
Rejection. Like when it comes to the fear of rejection, that rejection meaning we are being rejected. Rejection means the dismissing, refusing of a proposal or idea, etc. I would say that means the dismissing or refusing of us, whether that's our value, our intelligence, our worthiness, but it has something to do with us as a person, the one being that feels that rejection, if that makes sense. So, and of course, I like to use scientific studies if I can, peer-reviewed journals, whatever. But when I found two recent articles, one was 2015, the other one was 2022. And off the top of my head as a coach, because I know what some of these things mean, I think that it's not so much the fear of rejection is really the fear of what we are feeling when that happens, when we're being rejected, what is going on there. And we're going to get into that too. But it's the fear of what that all means to be rejected, what that feels like. Usually we don't know how to separate the two. So this study or this paper talks about several interpersonal emotions that reflect reactions to real, anticipated, remembered, or imagined rejection. And some of these include hurt feelings, jealousy, loneliness, shame. There's that shame. Guilt, social anxiety, embarrassment. That's a big one. And even anger. So those are some of the interpersonal emotions that are a reaction to rejection, whether it's real, imagined, anticipated, remembered.
No, remember.
So far, making sense. I want to make sure I'm taking it kind of slow.
No, absolutely.
People in the chat, ask questions if you got them. I don't care.
Yeah, no, but, I think that's spot on with that list.
Okay. So I think the rejection, is like the umbrella of what we are afraid of. We don't want to experience. Usually that's what a fear is, right? Where it's a threat. It's dangerous, whatever. So I have a purpose for why I'm bringing this up, but the reason that rejection, it does have a purpose. So it triggers these strong emotions because of throughout human evolution, we needed to be accepted by a group. That was crucial for our survival and our reproduction. So our ancestors formed supportive relationships, and those who did were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Makes sense. I mean, 1 + 1 = 2, pretty much. So the need for acceptance, that's a big word, acceptance and belonging became fundamental to our human nature. And to maintain that acceptance, people had to behave in ways that fostered it, and they had to remain vigilant for signs of disapproval. So remain vigilant for signs of disapproval. I think that's a big part of some of that fear, but again, I'll get back to it, or I'll get to that later. So since rejection, and back at our ancestors' times, that was life-threatening. And so humans develop, which is fascinating, humans develop mechanisms to sense and avoid it, including emotional aversion to rejection cues and motivational systems to address threats to acceptance. So which, um, okay, that's interesting. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I've heard that, things such as that, but I think that's interesting to almost, we could dissect that. But so again, there is a purpose from a, evolutionary standpoint to our human nature. And it hurts, like it's hurt feelings. There is parts of the brain. Have you heard of and I was gonna look up the pronunciation because I might butcher it, but is it sociometer or is it, I almost want to say sociometer, but sociometer, but I think that's another term for self-esteem, is what I saw. But I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That's not
social
a word
media?
I hear.
You said social media?
So sociometer.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the back. I forgot the R, but sociometer. So anyway, it's a psychological system. So basically there's parts in our brain that are, so I'm just going to read this because I think that it's the easiest way to digest it. So there's neuroscientific investigations suggest that much of the activity of the sociometer is mediated by the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, so part of the brain, and anterior insula. Among other functions, these neural regions are associated with physical pain, which may help to explain why people report that they are hurt when others devalue or reject them. So these feelings, they are real, and they are a part of, the brain is made to function this way, and our bodies also to feel this way, and to feel that pain. So the reason I wanted to bring this up was so that people can kind of maybe be encouraged or at least understand that this is normal. The things that they're experiencing when they, just the fear of it, the fear of rejection, and also just the fear of maybe not having connection, but that they don't belong or that someone may not choose them. Even outside of relationships, the classroom, whether that's being accepted by friends, again, outside of relationships, but maybe your idea will fall flat, or maybe you have the wrong answer. That kind of feels like rejection. You don't get a job, rejected. And then there's all different types of places. Any other ones that you can think of that are major?
No, I mean, all the ones that cover your livelihood. So job covers money for food, resources, anything that interferes with me having access to resources. So money, opportunities, same thing, job, transportation. Like if you live in a place where public transportation is not readily available to you, that's a form of rejection. Like I can't get to places. If you can't get a car, credit. If you're turned down for certain credit things, there's a fear. Like I fear like I won't be able to get, because a lot of things are run based on credit. Preferred ways if you can pay it all off so you don't have the debt. But any of those resources, housing, relationships, connection, food, and resources.
And whether or not, and we're going to talk about this too, whether or not it's not personal really, or, let's say if they require this credit score and you don't have that credit score, well, but to you or to me, it may feel like rejection, and that may feel like hurt feelings or sadness or loneliness, whatever. So back then we needed to, to survive and to pass on our genes, we needed to be accepted. We need groups. We still need that connection and that acceptance. I think that's part of what Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't even know if that's been revised, whatever, but it is, people live longer and have a better sense of, I guess, well-being when they have relationships, family, community. I would say that's a part that kind of speaks to that point. And I just want to shout out to Tommy B. He's in the chat.
Tommy B's in the house. What's up? And Quentin is here. Glad to have you.
Yes,
Both
thanks for
swinging
being here,
through.
y'all.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
So these, again, speaking to how these emotions and the reactions to that rejection, they are real. Our brain uses the same parts of the brain that is associated with physical pain. So now what? So what do we do with this? This is like the biggest thing. I gave you enough education, I guess, or knowledge about it. So again, this fear is normal, this function. But all of the processes of the brain has gotten us to this point, and these exact same processes we are going to have to overcome to evolve to the next level. But why? Because being afraid all of the time, these are some of the more extreme situations, we could say, like, and I want to be empathetic too, of course, and understanding and compassionate, but the people that are afraid of rejection, that they don't seek relationships, things like that, being afraid all of the time served us well, but it doesn't now. That's actually, that stress, that worry, that is really bad for your health. Not just your well-being, but your physical health. So we have to evolve past these survival mechanisms that got us here, so that we can evolve and get to where we're going, hopefully, right? That makes sense why these are not helpful anymore. What do you think, Doc? And anyone in the chat, you have questions, comments, please, you can leave them. What do you think?
Well, I consider a combination of things, because not common sense. Some of the things that were the norm 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago now comes with this element of fear. But I say, is it really fear, or is it the comfort? Because if we're now in more of a sensitive world, everything's sensitive. So the increase in sensitivity. So if the fear is, oh, I'm nervous, I don't know if I'm gonna get, I'm scared, and then you increase the sensitivity, then you increase the perceived fear. And even though it's natural, but then because there's an increase, then we start to not demonize it. We start to criminalize. We find fault in it. Like, we forget that it's a natural element. So if you put a person in a pit with snakes, there's most likely there's a natural component to it where people are gonna be like, whoa, there's a natural fear.
Right.
But now, I should say all over the world. I don't know if it's certain parts of the world or what, but now the idea is, if you put me in a pit of snakes and I'm scared, well, then we need to get rid of all the snakes. Shame the snakes for hissing a little bit, and and now we need to knock out the snakes. But did that really teach me or help me get through the fear? I mean, I think if you put me in another pit, I still have the fear because I never worked through the fear. We just got rid of the snakes. So that's my that's my opinion.
That is exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. You have a relationship breakup. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
No, say back in the day, you had a relationship breakup. And the anger. So the fear was, if I ask you for your phone number and you say no, okay. Now what really changes that is the perception. So if you say no, and I perceive that as like, whoa, how dare you? Then or if I get told no in front of the fellas. By myself, it's like, oh, no worries, I totally understand it. I'm not good enough. Huh? Who said all that? Oh, yeah. But now I get turned down in front of the fellas. They're laughing at me. Oh, you can't get a number. Now that perceived, that feeling doubles. It intensifies. But again, now we live in a world where not all, but the bad person is the woman now, or the person who I'm asking the number for. I'll be asking the woman, "May I have your number?" And she says no. I mean, this has been around forever where she was beautiful, you're all that, a piece of lemon pie and all that. But then the second she says no, she's all kind of itches and O's.
Right.
But now to the point where she might even get socked in the face because it was a form of disrespect.
Right.
And then to even demonize it even more, if I do convince her to get the number, the fact that she made me wait so long to get the number, she made me go through such a process to get the number, well, then there's some type of payback, if you will. Or at least some of the things I hear about it.
Hey, Beautifully Animated. Yeah, that's actually what that paper was. It kind of broke down the different emotions that are a reaction. And the anger piece does come from a sense of, injustice that was done because, if this person rejected you, didn't give you their number, and I will say, this is kind of where I'm going to start going into, all right, what do we do with this? The interpretation of the rejection, I think that is where the work is, or where the problem is, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. Because again, what's that say about me that I got rejected? Does that mean I'm a bad person? And does it really have to do with me? Beautiful Animators in the house. What's up? What's up? Good to see you. And Blaze. What's up, Blaze? McCroy. Croy? I hope I'm saying that right. MC. Blaze is in the house.
Yeah. Hey,
so,
Blaze.
how I look at that rejection or even the fear. I'll give you an example of the work that I do. Well, we do, but the work that I do when it comes to even being licensed, where I'm told in some arenas, I have to sign off on something. No, but the fear is that the person might delete themselves or feel like they shouldn't be in the world because of this, whatever. And then I didn't co-sign or I didn't affirm, so they believe they should delete themselves. So that fear has increased to the point where then it becomes law or rule or standard policy to attend to someone's fear. And so before it was, everyone has fear is a natural thing. It's a natural thing. So yes, I feel fear. And then as far as taking your life, the fear was what? It was usually associated to something. But now there seems to be a report that the increase is because I'm not happy. And I'm not happy and I can do something about it, but I fear I might run into rejection.
Right. Which is usually I think that's fear in general is a lot of what we think is going to take place. And that to the brain, that feels it doesn't know the difference if it's happening or not, or if it could or not, but it's just getting those messages. So of course you're going to react as such. And of course, I'm going to leave room for people's upbringing and obviously if they have this programming where it feels very real to fear this thing. Sure, I hear you, and that is real. Now, I'm not speaking to trauma or any of that because that's not my wheelhouse. I am not qualified to do so. But let's say you do have those programs where they feel very real that these things are going to happen or that, that it is unfair or whatever, that it is still within your ability right now to just hear what I'm saying if you're tuning in and listen and maybe consider, is that real? Or, okay, maybe.
But what's real? No captivity with Freezy's in the house. Kasim is in the house. What's up?
Oh, hey, Kasim.
Yeah. Hey. Long time. But Coach, what's real? I mean, because we got in the
that
world where we start blending in reality with
right.
fantasy and expectations with wants and desires. So what,
So
when you say what's real?
so that woman saying no to giving you her number, is it real that she thinks that she's a bitch and she thinks that she's a misandrist and whatever, or could it be that she is married?
She's
What's
married, but she
real?
acting like a little bitch right now and not giving me a number. But
Is
no,
she?
but
No,
no,
but really, no, that's an
yeah,
answer though that I
yeah,
could
yeah,
see someone
yes,
having for sure. Like, yeah, but she's
yes.
acting like a little bit. Um, yes.
Interesting
Hey,
topic. Do you
great
believe fear
question.
rules the lives of most people? Yes, but
Yes.
but coach, and I hate to break down every single word. It doesn't work
I
like
know.
that always. But
I
what is
want
a
to think so.
bitch? What is it? And now my fasting time is over, so now I can say these words. But what is a bitch? What is a bitch? And the response. See,
Right.
people get caught up in
Yeah.
what was her response? Let me ask you. You gave us the idea. Would you give us some examples of the response? I asked her for a phone number. Excuse me, miss. I was very polite and kind.
Mhm,
I took the risk. I gained some courage, and I've
mhm,
been motivated to go over to her. I took
mhm.
the risk, got the courage, and motivated to go over to her and ask her for a number. Now,
You
would
know
you
where
give me the premise? And okay, go ahead.
you went wrong though, I think?
Where?
This is where well, no, I don't wanna go jump ahead, but the premise, so if my client was bringing this to me, or if someone actually, I would probably speak with this anyway with anyone.
Yeah,
They the chicks or the girl, sorry, I'm like speaking like, whatever.
yeah,
The girl, he had the courage, whatever the three things, and he asked
yeah.
her for her number and she said no. It is not a fact that she had attitude, because maybe she did to you, but what you may interpret as attitude, not everyone. Like, we could spend so much time,
Okay. So
interpreting that, but is
right.
it helpful? I would say let's break down the facts of the situation first. Like, let's agree on the
What?
facts.
Okay. What are the facts?
She said no.
Okay. In the eye of the beholder. So I
Mhm.
am the eye, and I behold my perception on how she said it, and I have a
I
right to
like
my
this.
feelings. And
I like this,
yeah,
by the
yeah.
way.
I have a right to my feelings, and I have a right to the way I perceived it. Could you give us just a smidgen of context in how she said no? Give us just a smidgen of context.
She said, no, I can't. Sorry,
Okay.
no. Sorry, no.
Okay. Now, in that tone, I hope.
Sorry, no.
Okay. So now this here and the lips, no.
Wait, but how are we going to say that we believe that this person is 100% going to imitate that person?
No, no,
You know?
no. That's why I say it's variety, like a variety. She'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, I can't. Thank you." And that in that tone, I can't imagine that she would be called a name. I'm thinking what escalates my thinking to then call her that name.
But
I
if
could be.
this, yeah, go
Hmm.
ahead. No, sorry. Go
No, I just
ahead.
I think it would just be totally ignorant of me
Mhm.
to do the name calling if she were that. Because you're right, she doesn't owe me anything. Her no was the answer.
Yeah.
But I think
Let's
when it
say,
escalates to that
yeah.
level of bitch, I think that her no came with something. I think it had some energy. I'm assuming that it came with
Okay,
something.
let's assume. Yeah, let's assume, because I forgot that we were using the bitch one. Let's
Hmm.
assume that she was like, no, you know,
Hmm.
because
Okay.
I'm imagining someone having, let's say she did have attitude,
Hmm.
the woman that's married isn't going to be as crappy about saying no.
Yeah. All right. Look,
You know
now
what I
you
mean?
getting me going. Now you getting me going. Listen, and I see some questions in there. in the chat about did she give 3 cues to approach? She didn't. There were no cues to approach, but how in the magical world, and I'm just, my tone is, I'm pushing back now, Kasim. How in the magical world would I ever know if I have permission to get a phone number? I can't wait for some cues. Now, I get the idea of, does she appear, like, do I recognize the social cues that say stay away? But did I need to have cues to approach? And then, Coach, you're right. I think any way that a person chooses to respond, that's on them. Let's add the human element to it. What's our environment? Where are we?
Right.
Because if we're at the whole spot and you talking about some no, well, bitch, everybody in here is giving out their number. What do you mean no? So let's take in consideration the environment. Again, you have a right to say no. Let's take into consideration my knowledge of your yeses. Let's take into consideration my knowledge of your yeses. That changes the scenario. Expectations, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we add the human element to it, mono for mono, I pray no one's that ignorant to be calling people out of their name. You start adding into the scenario. What is her dress like? Now, I want to be clear. No outfit in the world. She could be totally nude. That does not give anyone the right to disrespect anybody.
Right.
Okay.
If anyone thinks that we're saying that.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always somebody out there to get sensitive.
Right. We shouldn't spell it out. Whatever, we will.
Right. So I'm first to tell. I work with offenders, and I'm first to tell you, a person should they have the right to walk down the street totally butt naked, and no one has a right to be touched and. Okay. Now, the world we live in, pending the environment, the situation, your response, the way you breathe, the way you move, and all that, that might trigger me to express my insecurities, my problems, and I take it out on you. So, because remember, I got the courage, I got the motivation, I moseyed over, and now I feel like a goddamn fool. And instead of me owning those are really about me. I feel like the fool. I feel like the fool. But then guess what? I take it out on you. Well, fuck you, bitch. You ain't nobody wants your number with your funky ass anyway. Or it may not be that aggressive, but it may be like, whatever. So I still say that's about me taking it out on you. Now, if you scan me up and down like I'm short or something, shout out to Bernie Mac. If you scan me up and down like I'm short. Now that still doesn't require, because I didn't get into rights. I don't have the right. I just say that still may not require me to go to that extreme of BITCH. But the scan up and down, pending what culture you're from, pending what street or hood you're from, that scan up and down means something a little bit different. So I still say it's still up to me to manage that. Because she could have scammed me up and down, cursed me out, and did whatever she wanted. That doesn't mean I have to give into that. I do not have to surrender to that. I think I'm the weaker person if I surrender to that.
Yes. And that moment, literally slow motion, that moment in time where the person responds, and that moment and your interpretation, I'm not saying that you want your interpretation of her like to be great. You don't have to think that's lovely. But still, let's all just like use common sense. The moment, but from their reaction or response and your interpretation, I think is how you're going to react to that rejection piece. Remember the hurt feelings, the jealousy, the anger, the loneliness, whatever. Those feelings are, how do you interpret that? And I think that whether that's perceived that that's going to happen, that they are going to react that way. And, let's say that let's step away a little bit from the disrespect or whatever. Let's say the person just says no because they're not interested in you. So they're like, no, thanks. Like, I don't know what they would say, but
Yeah, just no thanks. Just
this
yeah.
interpretation is they're not interested in you, which still does kind of hurt a little bit, right? How
Well,
that what, Doc?
go. Yeah.
No, well, but that's the point though. What hurts about it, what ultimately hurts about rejection, hear me out, is the discomfort, the feeling of the rejection. Remember, your brain controls that. It's associated with the what was the word? The pain. I don't know. I don't remember what it said. Do you remember what it was? Because I
Oh
wanted to use
no,
that.
for the definition of rejection.
No, the pain part of the brain.
Oh,
So
the
sorry, that's gonna bug me.
the
Yeah,
sociomate thing you were talking about.
it's the neural regions that are associated
neural
with
regions.
pain. Sorry.
Yep,
That was
neural region. Shout out to the world class. That's what he talks about. The neural region. Shout out to the world
right.
classes in the house. Yep.
So that is what I think we are afraid of, is the feelings, right? It's not so much like we're afraid of the embarrassment, yes, but is it the embarrassment? Oh, is this so? Oh yeah, I think
Oh
I've
yeah,
seen that
Ara.
name
Yeah, I
before.
met on the almost said Jay Z Jeff. What we what's J? I'm calling him Jazzy Jeff. No Captivity. I met Ara on No Captivity. So honor to
Okay.
have her here. Honor to have her here. So, Coach, I agree with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
The problems we have with the person at that time has nothing to do with that person.
Correct.
Yeah.
Say it again. Sorry.
Yeah. For those in the back, at 7:46 p.m., 8:46 p.m. on West Coast, 6:46 p.m. The problems it's actually 58. I'm about to eat a horse up in here. I'll get to eat just like the problems I have with you at 7:58 p.m. have nothing to do with you at 7:58 p.m. 2024. I'm talking about relived experience. The definition you read, relived, seen, observed before, heard before, experienced before, and I'm going off the heels of that, and I'm applying it to you. And your response, either I'm having a reaction to my previous, like I've added you either added another decline, another rejection, and my snap is because it tipped the scale. In my mind, it tipped the scale, and you're responsible for it. Even the approach. So, because when I read, because still, I'm still reading like, no. You need to check out the cues. I agree with you, Kasim, in the correct way for approaching, especially for like if you believe there's some attraction, some whatever. I believe you should check for the cues. There are times I'm in the subway and we're all smashed up next to each other, and I don't have a time to be checking out and scanning for cues. There might be a QD reading her book or whatever, or people read books anymore, but looking at their whatever, and she's not even paying attention to me, and I'm going to approach. Now I could say, "Hey, woo," from across, and then wait for the cues. But when I go over, all the thought in my mind about the fact that I went over, I'm holding you, not you, Coach K, but I'm holding her responsible to the fact that I wasted a trip. I took time. I mean, like I'm holding her to that. And this is where the pain comes from. But if you think about rejection, what is the definition of rejection? I believe you looked it up, but what is the definition?
Dismissing or refusing of a proposal, idea, etc.
Yep. So if I take that definition alone, I got rejected, and that's exactly what it is. She rejected my offer. He or she, whoever you're approaching, so if the man's approaching the woman's approaching the man, the woman, man, all of it. At the end of the day, it's a rejection, which is a denial of your proposal. End of story. Right. I don't need to call you a bitch. I don't need to call you anything. It was a form of rejection. Right. I'm adding in my feelings. I'm adding in some other psychobabble. I'm adding in justice, like this is unfair. I'm adding
Right.
in the fallacy of fairness and the belief that I don't ever. I'm adding expectations, ego. I'm adding in, this whole belief system that I have that I get what I want, aka entitlement,
Yeah.
power dynamic. We add all that into it. That's what muddies the water, and all of a sudden now rejection has a new look to it.
Correct. Correct. That was perfect. Ours said my debit card rejected my purchases.
Yeah, I'm offended. Yes, because there was an expectation,
Right,
there was
right.
a hope, a desire, or even an operation of fraud. When we don't have no money, we know, but we just kind of hope, we wish that maybe it'll go through this time. And so there's a hope, desire, expectation, even an operation of fraud. And when we go out, if I take this with this going to date and pull my credit card out, I know I only have $30 worth of credit. The bill came up to 31, and I'm hoping that the thing will like extend me that dollar credit, right? And I'm in front of, here goes the perception. So when they bring it back, I'm sorry, sir, your car was declined. Now, pending your ego and all your other stuff, do you go, oh, try another? Would you try and run it again? Are you embarrassed and blah blah blah?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do for you? So
Right.
I think all those pieces are added. We had a couple of good questions I didn't want to ignore, because I don't want to dominate the conversation. But there were a couple of questions about whenever you're ready, Coach. To Blaze had
Yeah.
a question, and I
Can
think
I add one thing and then let's get to them? The
yes,
one
yes,
I think Kasim's point is really I think that's fair, and that's a good point. What
about their
comes to
approach.
mind for me is though, yeah, because I'm thinking of sales. Like there's cold calls and like hot warm leads, whatever, that kind of like weed out, the kind of risk I guess you're going to experience when making that sale. She's reading. Yeah. So like I can see how those social cues, or those, what are those choosing signals, I guess, or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are warranted, but if I'm someone could and I'm going to be vulnerable, I am very, very fearful of making sales. So if someone's like, hey, this person wants what you're offering, we've already vetted them, whatever. So let's say I have all of those cues, like they're already there. I'm still fearful because of, in my mind, what if they could still say no? Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
said all this. So I'm saying, just to like respond to like Kasim, I think for some people that have this almost debilitating fear of rejection, even if they have all of these physical cues lined up, for their approach, I
Mm-hmm.
still don't think it's going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
Not for every case, but I think for a lot of them. They may feel more comfortable, but that fear of rejection, that rejection is still there. The possibility of it. But okay. So what's that? What are the questions? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
saw.
you made a good point, Coach.
Why, thank you.
Question, interesting topic. Do you believe that fear rules the lives of most people? I think depending the culture you're in, and this is not a depends answer, but slice and dice that question and put it in its correct perspective. If you're in this culture where they actually push the idea of fear, then yes, most people are going to operate on fear. If you put it in the culture where they say it is the norm, then no, that's not
Mm,
about fear. If you put it in the culture where it's kind of iffy, we don't know, then I think if you add some seasoning to it, then you have fear. So to answer your question, pending the culture, pending where you are, what the whole idea is, blah, 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 that's what determines, I think, a majority of the people saying that they operate in fear.
Can I speak to that really quickly? Because before I forget, so, and this is fascinating to me. So there is a decline in children's play. Have you heard of this? Basically, like risky play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's adventures. So really the definition, physically risky play allows children to explore more diverse movements and gain physical movement skills. But cognitively, it helps them overcome their fears, build their critical thinking, and become accustomed to coping independently with difficult situations. So that could be climbing, using tools, playing near elements like water or fire, but jumping into a lake, playing in the neighborhood without supervision. So I think then add on technology, things have changed. Parents are in stats show that parents are more weary of letting the kids their physical safety, like they letting them outside, things like that, but less on the internet. But that's a whole nother thing. So with the lack or the decline in risky play, that has impacted the children's mental health, and this has been since really the 1980s. So injury related deaths are at an all-time low, but that fear is there. Mm-hmm. So just talks about time, space, freedom, that are ingredients to bringing back risky play and childhood freedom. That's a whole nother topic, but I think that does speak to the society's just being, forget how he phrased it, but being ruled by fear.
Right.
So
let me ask you this. Do you think fear is scalable? Do you think there's different levels or degrees of fear?
Yeah, because it is necessary, but yeah.
Okay, so it's necessary. So let me give you an example. I have a 36-year-old client right now. She's scared of her own shadow. All right. She barely go outside. She barely does this. Her husband is driving him bonkers because he's trying everything to let her know it's okay. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's go do that. So when we just in general kind of go back and forth about fear this and fear that, and don't be so afraid. For my particular client, we're talking about something that happened when she was 4 years old. Having an interaction with a family friend that didn't seem appropriate, and forever not having an answer to that. There's always been this ongoing fear about questions. Those have been an ongoing question. Why does this happen? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? Was it appropriate for so-and-so to do that? Was it appropriate? So that word appropriate latches on like a tattoo. And now, was it appropriate for you to approach me? Was it appropriate for you to ask me? Was it appropriate for you to? So the fear is associated with appropriate. The violation, the violation. So if the approach is considered a violation, you cross my boundary. You approach me without permission. You may have to get your permission just to walk to the other side. Yeah, you have to get. But what is that permission about? What is that permission is about? That permission is about safety. That permission is about safety. And the case I'm talking about. So this is not going to land with everyone. It's not going to fit with everyone. I'm talking about the case that I'm talking about. So approach is about safety. Appropriate is about, should you be asking me? What do you mean, should I be? But that should you has been the ache, it's been the pain for 20 years. And so now it applies when I simply said no, and I don't want no trouble. I simply said no. And then you think that then the person who's reacting about this aggressive stuff, they have their whole story about why they're doing it. But the fear, I say, you have to put it within its proper perspective, because first of all, there's a natural fear. And are we talking about natural, above and beyond? Above and beyond. And then it's not only having the fear, is what you do with it.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm afraid. I see a question here. I think Ara asked, does the fear of rejection stem from the ability to accept the word no? And I think someone else asked, or Blaze said, you can pretty much sure someone said no before because they were fearful. So I mean, gave the number out. Gave the number out because they were fearful. But again, what is that degree of fear about? Like, was there an experience? They got beat up before. They got cursed out.
Right.
They don't want any problems. Okay, but if you give that same situation to a person who believes the only person I fear is God, we have a whole different story. If you give that scenario to a person who says, the only person who can hurt me is myself, the only person who can reject me is myself, you have a whole different story. If you beat me up and call me all kind of itches and nose, the only person who's going to take that, who could take it personal and really sob about it, is myself. You give that to a religious person, you give it to a so-and-so person, you give it to a, it changes. See, when we're talking about the phenomena of something, if you want to talk about the phenomena of like, whoa, this fear factor, well, it should measure out no matter what category you put it in. It should measure out pretty much the same. We're talking about something that doesn't measure out. So if you change 1 degree higher or lower, this doesn't measure out the same. The only part of it that measures out the same is that fear is a natural thing, period. There's only part of it that measures out the same. And the fact that I brought my own personal stuff into it, if I call you all kind of itches and nose, that was about me, not about you.
Correct. So it's like it is a natural thing, but obviously what are the external elements that occurred, whether in childhood or, that are outside of our control now because they happened, and then also to what we're doing to either avoid that fear, or
Right.
How we're interpreting and then creating that fear, I would say.
Right, creating.
Because I think a lot of it's creating the fear. But there was another question. Okay, so with Ara's question about, does the fear of rejection stem from the inability to hear? I think yes, but it's the inability to hear. It's what's going on when they hear no, and accepting no. Like what are they making that mean? And this kind of goes into, okay, you have a fear of rejection. Now what? So what does that mean when someone says no? And there's so many different scenarios. What do you make it mean about you? I think sometimes too, it's helpful to consider what's going on in their life.
The way they perceive it.
Yeah. So I think that fear of rejection, even just how are you interpreting? And I have to do this for myself. If I'm trying to make a sale or whatever, what am I making that mean about me? And when I break it down, sometimes I'm like, I actually watched this video and I wanted us to share it, but I don't know if we can or not. Because it's a TED Talk, but we can maybe talk about it for next time. But just this guy's interactions, whatever. But I want to answer. Did you have anything else before we go to another question?
A couple of things, if I may. So we can get attacked if we said there are women who get attacked for because they said no and they got punched in the face and all kind of stuff. Yes, you can get punched in the face for anything. But see, this is the problem when I say we kind of create this culture where wherever that environment is, right there in that town, that city, whatever. If you said yes, you can get punched in the face. If you said no, you can get punched in the face. So yes, there is a fear. Women are giving out their numbers because of fear. But who says why do you have to give into that fear? What if you say no, and if it's a fight, it's a fight? I'm not promoting that women say no and get beat up, knowing that they might get beat up. And of course, you want to gauge the risk, but then you continue to foster that idea that if I don't give you a number, you have a right to beat me up. No, you don't have a right to beat me up. And if you do take the risk, if you want to go the legal route, if you want to go the handle it privately route, whatever, there's a consequence to the person who engages in violence because you said no. Now, there's some nights where you don't want to be involved in that consequence. I get it. You don't want to be involved, so you give a quick answer. I get it. But please, let's stop normalizing that I should give you my number because I was afraid. Do you act that way at work? When they tell you no, you can't get a raise, you beat now in some communities, yes, that manager might get their ass whooped. But in most cases, if you get told no at work, boom. So why does it work for this thing, but it doesn't work for that thing? Let's stop normalizing that. Oh yeah, I might get beat up, so I'm gonna give out my number. That is a crime. If someone is whooping your ass because you didn't give them the number, that is a crime. That is not because please work through that fear, or else you stay in fear, Now, if
Yeah,
the
that's another
consequence,
side of fear.
right
Yeah.
now, the consequence might be so great that yes, there is this instilled fear where you automatically give into that. So the consequence, I think you said it earlier, Coach, it's been lived already. It's been lived already where there was some type of consequence. Maybe you did get beat up almost near whatever. And now it's just an automatic, sure, here, take the number. And so I want to acknowledge that too. It's not as easy as as I make it. But then the question is, how do you work through that fear? And we take it,
Right.
and then the fear at workplace, I'll land with this. The fear at the workplace. So I told you a few months ago, these sisters who I was trying to help made a big to do. They took me through the little cancel the doc. But in my heart of hearts, my give back to the world has been give, 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 give. Now, of course, it's for my own selfish reasons. But then, how do you go from that to now I want to give again? And then how do you go from having this job where you start engaging in these gaslighting things? These old men were telling me about these men who've been on the job for years, and then they've been accused of now, like if they compliment someone, that's being patriotic, or you're patronizing someone. If you, these old men who are like they're ready to blow their brains out because they can't figure out like how the world turned upside down on them. That's a natural fear. Now they don't know which way they're coming or going. Those are lived experiences that has their psyche just like, and that is a natural fear. So the women on the street who've been beat up, the men who've been whatever, all that is a natural fear. But
Right.
adding to it that we have to do because, and you have these instructions on how you can do this and you can't. Says who? Where is all this coming from? And how come all this stuff wasn't told 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago? Who's making all these rules? And then we're adding and increasing the fear and the fear and the fear and the fear. Stop.
Right. And everyone's afraid to even
Stop.
say anything. You
You
know
can't
what I
say
mean?
anything to anybody now. You can't say, I better not say anything. I can't. What? And then we say, it should be direct communication, but I can't say shit. So how can I have direct communication
Right.
if I can't say anything to you? There was a time, and not to, I'm not intending to throw race in there, but this is an example. There was a time where a black man could be afraid to walk down the street. And then they said, no, don't be like that. Don't be like that. Walk down the street, speak, 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 speak. And now, same thing. If you speak, Emmett Till was 14 years old, accused of whistling and beat to death. Accused of whistling. I wasn't there, so I don't know. Accused of whistling and beat to death.
Mm-hmm.
And now, almost the exact same thing. Did it ever even stop? Where if you say a certain thing to a white girl, the next thing you know, look at the Avengers guy. Now that's I don't need to get into the details. I wasn't there, so if he scratched her, didn't scratch her, I don't know. But a misdemeanor crime turned into now, boom. So everything is you can't. The guys who called the police, they called the police. Yeah, they called the police, and boom, it's flipped on him. So I hear all this stuff about what the world dictates this kind of how the societal norms are and adds to all this fear. Fear. And then for what? Like I'm going to be doing a show in a bit coming up about corporal punishment. And
are you cheating on me?
No.
Where's this show? I don't remember us
because
talking
I'm working on it, but I can't always give my secrets. I can't always give my, because there are people out there who like,
guys.
beat the kids. It's like, you can. But here's what I want to say and how it adds to this topic.
Yeah.
That very first hit leaves a scar on the brain. Excuse me. I'm not even talking about you hit them in the head. I'm talking about you just say, If you just throw a kid up in the air, like, woo, wah, and the kid is like, ugh, those are scars in the brain. And I
The
don't care how
experience.
much a person says it doesn't match. Biology, science, all of it, medical says it's a scar in the brain is going to impact the way they think. It's going to impact their comprehension. It's going to impact their ability to reason. And that's why you get the frozen kid look, huh? And so we think you hit him harder, that'll make him move. You know, the TV, if the TV doesn't work or the computer doesn't work, you hit the, and that's supposed to make it work. So we conditioned the world to believe if you hit something, you'll get it to work. You'll get it to cooperate. So yeah, the fear is if I don't cooperate, I'm going to get hurt. Why? Because I said so. Give me the fucking number. Okay, why are you being so? All this is like survival. That's survival. Now I'm talking extremes. I'm talking extremes because when you and I talk norms, then it seems like the chat wants to go extremes. So now I'm talking extremes. Not every situation is like that, but yes, we've conditioned forever that if you don't, then knock the hell out of them and not get you the results that you want. And that's
Right.
where we establish this fear. I'll land my plane there.
Right. That's an yeah, that isn't that aspect of fear is interesting. I've been hearing a lot of that. Just is it necessary, whatever. But Blaze asks, it sounds like fear of or maybe this is an observation. It sounds like fear of rejection has different elements to it. Like the fear of rejection from a potential employer feels different compared to the fear of rejection from a romantic interest. Yeah, they're both, umbrella fear or rejection, but underneath that, what's going on. So you could be angry from you'd be angry with either one of them, but it's gonna depend on, what there's more to it, like what's going on. Because
What's the common
what
denominator, Coach? What's the common denominator?
the rejection or the person experiencing the rejection for sure. But and I want to argue that we don't want to, not necessarily we're going to get rid of fear of rejection, that we should get rid of the fear of rejection. Maybe let's speak, I think it depends. I think if this fear of rejection and how you're dealing with it is holding you back, so you're avoiding situations because of that fear, so it's debilitating, what are you losing out on? Yeah, you're losing out on the possibility of rejection, which, by the way, you may not even experience rejection. You may not even get, that is there 50, but glass, half empty, half full. So you're safe from the discomfort of embarrassment. I guess, I don't know, denial. I don't know. I'm trying to think the romantic ones, because the hurt feelings, the feelings that are underneath. Yes, you're safe from that, but what you don't get the chance of experiencing is, a potential, hey dragon, the potential relationship. Also strengthening that muscle. Yeah, you got rejected, but that's one step closer to the next yes. For example, if you're thinking sales. So I think this is something that people are going to have to, unfortunately, I don't want to either. There's two things. You're going to have to go through it. Not, the only way, what's the phrase? The only way out is through. But also to check your thoughts about this situation. What are you thinking is going to happen? And if it does, okay, what then? So you're afraid that they're going to say no. Okay, well, what's going to happen if they say no? Kind of like carry that out and see what your mind comes up with. But what happens if they don't? And you may realize it actually isn't going to be that bad. So that's like two things I would say. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
We'll never get rid of rejection, and I hope we don't.
Right. What would happen if we did? Which is kind of hard to think about.
Yeah.
Do you want
I think
someone
we
to
have
say yes to you that doesn't really want to?
They always want to say yes to me that doesn't really want to. Yeah, I do personally because I'm a control freak. But
You want someone to hang out with you who's like doesn't want to be there?
yeah, I mean, realistically, yeah, because I'm asking, I want attention, I want companionship, I want attention, I want companionship. So that's about me and what I want. So if you say
For sure.
yes, then I get what I want. Now,
Yeah, well,
if you
let's say
say,
this
but I really didn't want
person,
to, right? I really didn't want to hang. They really didn't want to hang out with me, right?
they're on their phone their whole time. They're not giving you attention.
Right. But that's when we start hanging out. But previous to us hanging out, you asked if I want them to say yes, even though they mean no. Selfishly, when we operate selfishly, then I want them to say yes, and I totally miss all the cues that they really didn't
Yeah.
want to, or I totally ignored it, or I was so arrogant or narcissistic that it was about me, it was about me. So that person wants to hear the yes, and it totally blow past them the signs of no, I didn't want to. So
Mm-hmm.
do I want that? Yes, the ego wants that. Yay, hang out.
Right,
Because
right.
guess what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I'm going to convince you otherwise. I know you want to say no at first, but aren't you glad you came anyway?
You want to
So,
have to do that though, you know? Do you?
right. And in some
Well,
senses, yes, because it gives me a sense of purpose. If I can
mm,
convert a person, it gives me a sense of purpose and I win.
right. Maybe a
So
little
you say
dopamine.
no, but I know you mean yes. What they say that to us all the time. You say, do you really need the 4x4 vehicle? But then when I check your credit and I see you have enough to buy the 4x4, you may never climb over nothing but a speed bump, but don't you really want to know that you could go over the speed bump? Yeah. Yeah, see? So depending your selfish needs, that person may want to hear yes. Depending how your confidence you think you're gonna convince a person and do for whatever, you may say yes. There's a part of me that sometimes someone says no, and I'm like, that's not what you mean. But
Right.
out of respect and integrity and not making it about me, I honor their no. But was I at the time I asked, was I hoping that they would say yes? Absolutely. I would be lying if I said that I didn't want it, or else I would have never asked.
That's true. I mean,
I mean,
that
it
is a
doesn't
good
sound
point.
good. It doesn't sound good. It sounds crashed or whatever.
No,
It sounds
that was your
bad.
answer.
But my reality is, yeah, I want, you know, yeah. My reality is I want that. Do I really want to do the work? If it gives me a sense of purpose, yes. It is not until I realize that it's not about me that I should be respecting the no in the first place.
Mm, okay.
Think about guys who want to have, I don't mean to make everything sexual, but you think about the guys who want to have sex and she clearly said no 1,000 times and he keeps trying to convince her. Do you want to have to do all that
Mhm.
work? Well, the reward is when he finally gets her to say yes. That's the reward. Why do you have to do that every time? Why can't you just accept the first no? So I think the premise of your question, it makes sense to me, but bringing in
Right.
the human element is, yeah, I want that. Really? You don't feel like, not if I'm in my cocky mind, if I'm in my ego state, no.
I always use that question when I'm talking to someone who's like struggling with people pleasing. You know, they
Yeah,
really don't want to do something, um, but they do it because they don't want to hurt that person's feelings, which, of
right.
course, that person may not even have hurt feelings. Or if they do, that has nothing to do with you because you're just saying no because you don't want to. And I think
Hmm.
what when we manage our own emotional health, mental health,
Uh-huh.
we don't need an explanation. People don't have to justify. Now, it would help maybe, but I think when you have the ability to kind of, consider different perspectives, to talk yourself down, if you're like, I'm in my feelings sometimes when people don't want to do something or say whatever, but that's on me to maybe consider, well, maybe she just doesn't, she's tired, whatever. Maybe she really just doesn't like me, and that kind of sucks.
Mhm.
But do I need to consider that? I don't have to. But that's our
You should,
go-to, I
right?
think.
Right, that's our go-to. Take Heat is in the house. Good
Hey,
evening, sister.
Tahid.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. Salute to you. That's our go-to because one is easier. That feels more. What do you say is easier to apologize? What is it? Is easier to apologize later, right? It's easier to disrespect you now and apologize later
That's crazy.
because it is. But because I got what I
That-
wanted, I got what I
Oh,
wanted,
yeah.
and then apologize to you later. Um, Rejection, fear. See, all that pain, like that hurts. Remember, this is not the first time. What you see as a one-time rejection is a one-time fear. This has probably been something that's been going on for a while. If I resort to calling you all kind of names, that's stress. That's coming out of like constant or repeated. By the time we get frustrated, some people who snap in the fact that you even approach them. What is it about those people that the fact that you even approach them? Why just because I'm sitting over? Whoa, the world says now we can't even approach someone who's sitting down for coffee. Like, when do you? If you can't talk to the people you work with, you can't talk to the people at Target, you can't talk to the people drinking coffee. You can't. I'm just wondering, where do you find? If you go to church, you don't interrupt them praying. Where do you
Right.
find your wife? I'm just curious. Where do you even say hi, hello? If you can't say anything, zip. Don't approach anyone. When do
And
you?
why, why are these rules or, whatever,
Right. They say we'll
you
set up a
know?
social meet, like a networking thing, like go to like the HBU, college, the thing where they have the social night. And you go to social night, but someone who's really introverted is there and they don't really want to talk to a bunch of people, but they're there and they have that closed up, they have that don't approach me look. Even though I'm here, don't approach me.
In
So it's
my college's Twitter, I don't know how they found my name, but they said that, Coach K is beautiful, but she looks unapproachable.
right. Right.
And girls in my high school thought I was a bitch. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I don't, it has to be my face. It has to be,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not like, you can
Right.
talk to me now. Look at my voice get all high. Like, you can talk to me, whatever. But obviously, I just had to share that because it's like,
Yeah. I mean, but see, my boldness, I would approach you. You can have all the mean, don't approach look you want, because to me, that's your outside gear face. That's your outside gear face. Some of the meanest looking people are the loneliest people. I mean, some of the meanest.
I'm
Now, I didn't
tired.
say
No,
you are. I didn't say you are.
I know.
But for
I curse
you, you're
myself.
probably tired. You're probably tired. How
Yeah.
many times do you have to hear how fine you are? How many times do you have to be sexually objectified?
Right.
How many times do you have to like thank you but no thanks, and then people want to get crazy with it? How many times? So that's a defensive tired look. Like, please, is
Right.
that
And
all
I'm
you see of
focused.
me? Right. I'm focused and I'm more than just a pretty face.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's why I think sometimes the Mona D. I wondered if you ever come over here. Mona D's in the house. What's up? Sorry. I don't ever see you over here. What's up? What's up?
Hey, Rosie.
Dragonfly Jones' cousin. What's up? I don't think I even said hello to him. What's up?
Hey, Dragon.
So yeah, so those looks. Man, let's bring people up to speed, Coach. Welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. Coach K and Dr. Nakumbe here. We are talking today about the fear of rejection. So, in case
Yes.
you're just tuning in here live or the replay, that's what we're talking about tonight, or today, or this morning, depending when you listen to it. And I think we're having some very interesting dialogue. If you're able to see the live chat here, we have some great questions. Dragonfly, uh, um, uh, excuse me, beautiful animated, and K. My bad. I'm looking up the names.
Blaze has some great questions.
Blaze. Thank you, Blaze, and Mr. K or Mrs. I don't know who K is.
Wait, where are you looking at?
Kari's a guy. So,
No, Kasim.
Who?
Kasim.
Kasim. I'm butchering it. My apologies. Kasim. I was trying to scroll. My bad. So some excellent questions. If you're able to see the live chat, we're having some good conversation here about, is it okay to approach? Is it okay to picking up on signals? And is that fear related to something you have going on? Coach Cage brought up some very good uh, perspectives for us to consider about, is that really about your stuff that's going on, and how much did you dump that or project that onto someone else? What evidence have you collected that this fear is not worthy or legit, but like, what evidence have you collected to say, oh yeah, this is the reason I should fear? And what do you do with the rejections? And we could be rejected at any time for any reason. What do you do with that? So being able to use your
Right.
critical thinking skills, being able to use your processing, being able to get past any kind of distorted thinking or victimization feelings and really deal with the facts is what Coach K has presented to us. So welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you all for being here. I just
Kasim.
thought
All right.
of, yeah, Kasim, yeah. This thought has just been coming back to me. And then I just thought of also David Goggins, and just, he's a different individual for sure. Like he does some things that he sets himself apart for what he has accomplished. And he just talks about running towards fear versus away from it, and how fear is what makes us take the easiest path. And I was thinking, as we've been, talking tonight, what would have happened if people who have came up with the greatest inventions in all the advancements were afraid? What if they didn't, go after the thing that they created? Where would we be as a society?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
Or like people, yeah, go ahead.
and I don't want to pathologize everything. I say that there was an initial fear, like you're talking about. If they didn't have if they were limited,
Yes,
right? Because of
correct.
the fear, we wouldn't have the stuff we have.
That
I
is a
say,
point too. That's a good.
right
That's a good point. Yeah,
now,
yeah.
but the same word, fear, might have been the very thing to have them take a risk at all. So the fear of failure, the
Correct.
fear of disappointment, the fear of not knowing. I've
Yeah.
got to know. I've got to know. You put this thing now. Let's see it work. Boom. Oh, damn it. I can't shoot. Can you? Ooh, if I stop now, the fear
Well,
of not knowing.
rejection, if
Yes,
they
and
don't get invested in or
yes,
whatever.
the Pursuit of Happiness. I know it was just a movie, but I think it was based on a real life story. Chris or Carter or somebody, whatever. Pursuit of Happiness. That machine that he kept trying to sell.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, the fear of getting rejected and having to do any person in sales, having to even when I go to fast food and I say blah blah blah, and that's all. Would you like a cookie for an extra dollar? Didn't I just say that's all? But
Right, right.
but one, that's part of the script they have to ask you, and so then, like, man, did I have to be so nasty with it because I'm tired of being asked, would you like a cookie? I don't mind them asking, it's just that I'm trying to save on calories, and so by them asking me might influence me. Anyway, kachoosh. But the point is, I am bringing when all they were doing was their job. But there are some people, exactly what you're saying. They finally did something and they want to give it to the world, and they might get rejected. You know how many singers and artists go places and they get rejected when they're like, man, my music was my expression of, was telling my story, and I want it out there, and I think people would gel with it and jive with it, and is important, and my writing in this book, and da 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 da, rejection, it hurts, and the fear of even, no, I don't think it's good enough. We have chefs who cook an entire meal and then won't even taste it because they don't think it tastes good enough. They'll feed it to people, but they don't even think it's good enough because they're like, I don't know. That fear, as someone wrote as an MF or Coach K, you are right. People, would we really have what we have or be where we are if everyone got limited because of their fears?
that fear of failure, which I think can be wrapped up in rejection, is so scary. But I catch myself recognizing in other areas where I have confidence or, whatever, is that the failure, and of course, like, it makes sense from an intellectual standpoint, in the places I'm familiar with and I'm comfortable in, that I want failure because that is how I know what I need to improve on, what's not working, whatever. But when we have that fear, it seems so real. Like, all that stuff doesn't matter, And that's why, if we do not, these conversations are important so that people can not only learn this, but also to maybe halt the spiraling sometimes, or the belief system.
Yes.
And put a pin in it, because that program is going to continue to run if you do not disrupt it. So if I do not disrupt it, and whether that's externally put Post-it notes up and remind myself, but if you don't fail, you feel good. But also, if you don't fail, you don't get better, so something like that. But I see some questions, so I want to answer. Were you going to say something?
I just saw some super good questions that I wanted to make sure we get to.
I did too.
One, what are some tips or a tool? Chris Gardner, thank you, Blaze. Thank you, Blaze. Chris Gardner from the movie Pursuit of Happiness. Coach K, your question was answered up above, but there was a question about the tools, or what do you suggest? Let's see. And Kasim, thank you. I like how you put that cue. Actually, I'm gonna steal that from you. I like that idea. If you don't mind, I'm gonna put the cue when I have a question, like when I'm chatting in chats here. That
does help separate them.
Thank you. That's awesome. What mental exercises can you do in order to retrain your confidence? And Coach, I think that's where you were going a little bit, just when you were talking about not surrendering to it.
Yes, there's that. And then that goes also with his question, would I recommend someone spend a great deal of time alone getting their confidence up before they go out and engage with people? I would say no. Somewhat. So I can remind myself all that I want. And this definitely, this is something as a coach I have to work through, Now there's other areas that I've mastered.
Right.
But with this, I can talk about this information, really read David Goggins, but if I do not take action, I am not giving my brain any evidence that can be tied to that thought or that belief.
Bam.
So that confidence will never be fostered.
Correct.
Courage, yes. Spend some time maybe figuring out how to have some courage. The confidence will come later.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say too, Doc?
Spot on. So you ever heard when people say if you're depressed? You're spot on.
Yeah.
When they say if you're depressed, you should get up and take a shower, go for a walk, go outside, do exercise.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you lack confidence, is the opposite. I would not suggest stay alone. Is actually exercise that muscle. How much of that though? You could take itty bitty steps. My only goal today is just to go outside, just to stand in my doorway and wonder, like, man, what if I went down the street and got on and hopped on the subway and actually went and talked to someone or asked someone? Like, that's all just a fantasy, just from stepping out the door. Tomorrow I might walk 1 block. Tomorrow I might just sit in my car or drive over to the local so-and-so parking lot and just sit there and imagine, like, see just little bitsy pieces about what this confidence is, to the point where I earn up to the idea of getting over this fear. If I drive in traffic and there's a car accident, whoa. So what if I drove my car to a parking lot and just sat, like, as if I were in traffic? And I know it's not the same, but I'm building, I'm exercising that muscle. So I agree 1 billion % with you that let's activate it, so we can get the muscle memory to say, oh yeah, we could do this. We've done it already. We did a small piece. Let's do part 2. Let's do part 3.
Yes. 100%. And it feels productive sometimes when you're working on your confidence or working on this. And but that if you don't have anything to really show for it, failure is what you need. Failure because that means you took action, you risked something, and that's how you know that you are growing.
Right.
I think our society does associate failure a lot with tests, or doing bad or whatever. But at the same time, again, if you look at the gym, you go to failure sometimes,
Right.
in
Well,
a
and
certain set.
now here's the challenge. I agree with you,
Hmm.
but you said it a couple of times, is what you do with it. So I failed 300 foul
Jump
line
shots?
shots,
Oh, free throws?
just from the free throws. I failed 300 shots. I failed, but I also exercised, did whatever 300 times to now get sharper with range, strength. So what I do with the failure, if I walk away after 300 tries, like, man, I can't shoot a free throw, but and that's a reality, period. But if I can add to that, man, God damn, I just shot 300 times. I haven't made it yet. I'm getting it by 400. I'm out now. I added a whole 100. I didn't say 301, 305. Added an entire 100. I'm getting it by 400. And what you just said, now I'm using that failure as motivation for success. And someone said it here in the chat too.
Yes. And I will add to that. We've all heard practice makes perfect. And growing up, my dad would always say, no, well, there's no such thing as perfect practice. But I will say some type of improved practice, or I don't know what word you would say, some type of, because you have to shift something. You can't just keep doing the same thing. So again, you have to fail to figure out those 300 shots. You had to take them to figure out what you needed to tweak or whatever.
Yeah.
But once you've tweaked that, something in those 100, you're gonna have progressed in some way.
You know what I love what you just said, because there's one word you didn't say that is so crippling. You went straight to failure. How come you didn't say try? You have to try. You said you have to fail. I love that, because the try effort, wonderful. You could try, but the reality is you might not make it. So those who try then have to accept the fail. You went straight to the fail. You will fail in your journey to success. Woo, that because that whole try thing is another whole realm itself. I love how you went straight to the reality is. Reality is what they call radical acceptance. Radical acceptance.
Yes.
That
is
you
that
just DBT, Marsha Linehan. But I mean, Brene Brown might have said it too. Brene Brown may have said it, but Dr. Linehan said, "You, it's both is true. I shot 300 times. I missed 300 times. End of story."
Right.
So I love that you said that versus the try method. We'll keep trying. True.
Right.
Boom.
That language that we use or don't use is so important, because what does it invoke in you? And Kasim asks, and I like that. Thank you, chat, for all the questions, because I think it helps us build and kind of refine, at least for me especially, it helps me, refine and my focus on this topic. But Kasim asks, what are some rewards you can give yourself that would benefit your outcome for reaching milestones in your confidence goals? What I would say is something that's already baked into your question. Milestones, reaching the so let's say you have this big goal, building confidence. So let's say it's read 100, ask for someone's number 100 times. I don't know. That's kind of crazy.
That's a lot.
The milestone. Yes. So the milestone might be 10. So the reward is, because you're like, I'm never gonna get there. You don't feel the pleasure of that reward, because you still have, you have to get 100, whatever. But breaking it into milestones is how you do get little pieces of that reward by
Mhm.
establishing them in the first place.
Mhm.
Because again, I think that from what I've learned in my coaching, and it's very apparent to me, our rewards and our, I guess, moments of pleasure should come from things like that versus material things, food, whatever, because then it could be, if you want to give
Mhm.
yourself a
Mhm.
treat or whatever.
Mhm.
But when we source all of our pleasure from things like that, it's just not going to that's where we're going to have to get our pleasure. Where I think it's not so up and down when your pleasure is from achievement or just growth, things like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Doesn't sound as fun, but
Mhm. So when I
um,
think about rewards, there's a couple of things that don't sound too rewarding, but in the long run they might be. So what if I just had compassion for myself? What if I just built my self compassion? So the reward is that I'm okay with the fact that I didn't make it. I'm okay that I got rejected, and I'm okay. So the reward is confidence, a belief system that says I'm good. I love me. I love
and
me.
you did it too. You
Yes,
asked 10
yes,
people.
yes.
Let's focus on that. Like sometimes I'll stop my clients and be like, wait, don't dismiss that. You did the 10. Like you asked 10.
Yeah,
Before
but
you had 0 before. No,
true,
no,
true. But but I would have had to ask the 10 anyway.
but not necessarily.
Not necessarily, right?
You didn't
Right,
have to.
right.
Oh,
Well,
you're okay. You're good.
yeah, and no, and then you got that half
That's what they
smile,
would
right?
say.
Where they can't help it, like, well,
Yes,
yeah, but
yes.
but
I
still,
knew you
yeah,
were
yeah,
saying that, but
yeah,
I know what you mean.
yeah. But coach, that's embarrassing that I asked 10 people because now you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get the deflections because you hit a spot like you're right, but so you get the deflections about yeah, but that's still that was embarrassing and embarrassing. You asked 10
Right,
people. I don't care what you say. No one can take that away from me. Pause. What do you say, Coach?
right.
Sit in that. Just sit
Yes,
in that. Because last week it
yes.
was, I can't, oh my gosh, no, oh. I had my
Right.
ballistic vest on. They were, no,
I
no.
know.
And you've asked 10 people. That alone is a
Yes.
reward, the fact that you did it. I agree
That
with you 1 billion
that
percent, coach. Yes. So self
I
confidence,
yes.
um, self compassion. So self compassion. Have some empathy too, like empathy for
Mhm.
others who, it doesn't sound like it's a reward for yourself, but I'm finding forgiveness in others. I'm finding empathy in others, and I feel good that my process may not have looked like other people's process, but their process may look worse than my process. So I'm actually having
Yeah.
empathy for them, self compassion for myself, and then I'm also finding ways to be open to feedback, and that's a reward. Before I was closed, like no, I don't want to hear it. So just
Right.
moving from closed to open, because this conversation or this topic might not be the one that gets you the big $1 million ticket, but the fact that you learn to be open, you are now available. I'm talking about for positive, not for open for attack. But now that you've learned to be open, you won't believe how many things positively can come to you that
Yes.
you will benefit from later. So
Yes.
that's my additional piece.
That I like that the way you framed that and like yeah,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
good. I know we have 5 minutes, so I guess
Hmm.
we can wrap up. But if there's any other questions, let us know, please. And those catching the replay, if you have questions, please comment below the video.
Reckless Ray, what's up, Ray?
Hey, Ray,
Yeah,
what's
I ain't
going
gonna
on?
be. Every time I think of your name, sir, I think of the movie Life. Ray. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that movie, Coach K, with Eddie Murphy
No, I
and
haven't.
uh, and Martin
I
Lawrence.
need to.
Ray,
Gosh,
just what the fuck are you looking at, Ray? Reckless
I
Ray's
was
in the house.
saying,
Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Kasim, thank you. You've been asking killer questions, along with Dragonfly Jones making good points and beautiful animated. Along with, I see your comments there, Lady Navoa, and thank you for hitting these streets. And I know you played a role in these people popping up over here, so you are masterful at your mod duties and mod task and mod
Yeah.
volunteering. So you are mad mod, awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. And then also Blaze, thank you for your questions and comments and impact, and everyone here listening now and on the replay.
Yes. I want to add one more thing. So the
Mhm.
failure allows you to get better, but also when it comes to maybe we'll play that if I don't know if we can play the TED talk or whatever. But this guy had mentioned he was forcing himself to I was feeling uncomfortable thinking about asking the questions that he asked. He went up to a random door and asked if he could plant this flower in this person's yard. And the person said no. And one of his things that he was working on was to ask why. And the guy said, so he could have thought, oh, this guy's a D-bag, whatever. The guy said, no, because my dog, rips up everything. Totally harmless. But then the guy says, because he asked why and, had the conversation, he was uncomfortable, but he did it. The guy said, yeah, but actually, if you go across the street, this lady loves flowers. So it's also interesting what can come from, and for all we know, I forget the rest of that instance, but what can come from no's. Sometimes something better happens also. You never know. That whether it's a job, especially with relationships, things like that. But if you don't experience the possibility of rejection or the rejection itself, you won't experience that, whatever is possibly fruitful on the other side. So I wanted to add that additional piece. So.
Beautiful Animated brought up a good point to end with something to consider as we're ending. Sometimes, if not always, we take messaging from our parents. Because where do these core beliefs develop? So sometimes our parents say things. For those parents who are pushing the idea about your other parent being a bad parent, I'll say, please be mindful, because the information you're giving was about a person you dated or had sex with. So when we talk about how awful your father is, how awful your mother is, are we talking about your kid trying to date them?
Right.
You're talking about your dating experience and robbing that other parent of a parenting experience. Your daddy ain't shit. Your daddy ain't shit. As your man, he wasn't shit. As my father, how do we know? Now, he may repeat the exact same behaviors. Your mama ain't shit, and who knows? As my woman, she disappointed me. I can't guarantee as a parent, he would do the exact same thing for you. So sometimes we give our dating advice or dating judgment to parents, and that interferes in that child having that parent be in their life. Now, once that kid sees for themselves, like, yeah, my daddy ain't shit, that's with their own lens and not based on the dating background that your other parent experienced. I just wanted to add that piece.
Right. And with those experiences, which this is not to make it easier, but something to consider is those things that happened, we'll never know, but if they didn't happen, would it have allowed this parent to be the parent that they are to, their child,
Right.
So I didn't get to read her comment exactly, but whatever she experienced also.
She was saying that she wasn't given the quality experience that she's given her daughter, like some things her parents didn't do.
So which that is not easy, of course, but look what you did with it though, so, which is obviously your daughter gets to benefit from your love and the connection that you have with her, So just wanted to offer that too. Sometimes it adds peace to it a little bit, but anyway. Well, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed this topic.
Coach, yeah, you brought the thunder. You brought the thunder and the lightning. Good job. Good job.
Oh, well, I appreciate
Yeah.
you for always, bringing in the questions, and I'm sure you're about to eat your hand.
I am,
But
man. You know what? I busted. I almost said a ham sandwich because you said that, but no, this chicken sandwich. I busted it open,
all
and
right.
I'm ready. I'm gonna dig deep into it, and
Can I ask, are you fasting for a certain reason or?
I wanna lose 100 pounds
Okay.
in 10 days, and the goal is really to see in 10 days. You're like, okay. Can you imagine the crack look? Oh, I shouldn't say it. Let me back up. Can you imagine the look if I lost 100 pounds in 10 days? No.
That would not be good for your system, I'm sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
intermittent
I have,
fasting, I
I have,
guess?
I have practices and beliefs. I remember my population, so the folks that I work with, I don't let them get all of my business because that's how when it all starts with a stick of bubble gum in the jail. They just know that one little piece about you, and then they be like, yeah, yeah, there's that one little piece about you, and it's like, oh, that blah blah blah, and then it brings as neutral as possible as I can stay. So I will say I'm practicing. Actually, I'm just getting one. I'm taking advantage of an opportunity to kind of realign my values,
Hey, okay.
realign how when that this whole thing about fear and all this and overcoming and getting, and I know part of the reason why I'm on this journey is we know the physical abuse and the psychological abuse I endured years ago. You build strength, but then you become overconfident. And I can have more degrees than a thermometer. Still, it won't mean jack if I'm not mindful and if I'm not aware and if I'm not practicing, if I'm not focused, if I'm not all kind of things. If I'm not maintaining, if I'm not sustaining, if I'm not educating, a lot of things in order to boom.
Yeah.
So these last couple of years, I would say post COVID, it's just it I got my ass whooped, and I'm not above ass whooping, but it's just I didn't see it coming.
Right.
This whole men versus women and just some things, this whole cancellation thing, and
Yeah, yeah.
and and when you're an advocate and it feels like, whoa, wait a second, and then
Yeah.
the other part of me says I'm not out here to be bitching. Like I keep my complaints to
Right.
myself, so it's like, okay. So I'm in that rebuilding stage to get back on my feet
Yeah.
because I almost got dusted. Almost got dusted. If you saw the movie The Avengers when they were just all kind of getting faded away,
Yeah, yeah.
it got to the point where I had to question, maybe I'm not here at the right time anymore. Like I might
Mm,
be in the way. I might actually be in the way. The next generation, the next folks, the new theory folks, all this stuff. I just might be in the way. So when you
mm.
start questioning, like, should you be here? Should you
Right.
get out the way? But then I said, well, wait a second. I have a little bit more. I gotta get back on my feet,
Yeah.
and really, really, really examine. Like, wait. Who's it really impacting? What circles am I in? What am I doing? Why is it impacting me so? And then I have to remember what comes with me. In some elements, I'm a powerhouse. In some elements, not everywhere. In some elements, in the work that I do, the movie Django says you have to forgive Mr. Stone's what's his name? Stone Riker's slack jaw look. He ain't never seen nobody like you before. And coach, when I have person after person after person telling me, holy, I never heard it that way. I never thought about it that way. I've been going to therapy for 20 years. I've been a teacher for 25 years. So I bring insight. I'm profound. And all that's part of the curse, right? So I'm gifted and cursed. I have insight. I'm also willing to be transparent. Blah 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 blah. But what I forgot to be was mindful. I
Yeah.
forgot that even the best of the best could be God. I forgot to focus on who my higher power is. And when you
Yeah.
lose that focus, like so part of my fasting, I mean, it couldn't have been a better time for me to have this aligned with time to fast and time to get focused again. And because again, I'm in some realms, I'm a powerhouse. In some realms, as a comedian, I'm a fool, like a humorist.
Yeah.
And in some realms, I'm just the average Joe. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't pretend to be above. And I'm open to pushback, feedback, da da da. Da. But the warrior side of me was actually ready just to say, "Hey, hang up the uniform,
Right.
and we'll go see what's on the other side." And so when it gets to
Right.
that point, it's like, whoa. So that's in short the significance of my fasting. Like I said, the timing was perfect with how it aligns with my practices and beliefs. So that's what I'm about.
Okay. Well, shout out to you, dog, and
Yeah,
support
yeah,
you
yeah.
in all your endeavors, whatever they are,
Thank you,
of
thank you.
course.
Hmm.
But I think I don't know what it is exactly, but I think it's great. Keep, I don't want to say
You
platitudes
got
because
it.
I don't know exactly, but
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
just want to offer encouragement in whatever way that looks like.
Yes,
So
yes.
truly,
Thank
but
you. I
um,
appreciate it.
all right, let's
So,
close this thing down so you can
oh
eat
yeah, I'm
your
gonna
food.
eat either way. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat. So
Oh no,
I'll
right?
give my last closing comments, and if you
Yes,
want to give
please.
yours, cool. So in short, ladies and gentlemen, and others, thank you for listening. Appreciate you tuning in to the Black Man Unfiltered with Dr. Nakumbe and Coach K, and talking about trust and the fear of rejection, or the fear of rejection, and how it plays in different parts of our lives. Here's what I like for you to take away. I was just talking about the word mindfulness, but if you're able to really be mindful as to what you subscribe to as far as what rejection means to you, what you subscribe to as far as what you allow fear, and I say allow because some of it is natural. You can't unless you can outdo you know chemistry, biology, all your body, all those ologies and terms.
Right,
Depending
right.
what if you can't outdo that stuff. So there's a piece of it where we're talking about radical acceptance. There's a piece of it where we're talking about control, having being accepting the things you can control and the things that you cannot, and then the
Mm-hmm.
courage to deal with the difference. Right, the whole AA
Mm-hmm.
saying.
Mm-hmm.
So have those tools, strategies. Be okay with fumbling and with failing, and then getting up again. Shout out to Grooming Reviews, where he talks about if you go down and getting up again. So shout out to him. Have your
Mm-hmm.
standards. Shout out to the Duseds about.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Duseds about standards.
Good.
Um, and even who's our Monday person here on the show, our Pain. So even when
Right.
our pain, when he's talking about, man, just some shit is just it is what it is, right? Some shit just is what it is. Continue to move forward. Shout out to Hink, where he talked, Hink in the basement, who's talking about take care of your health. Do what you have to do to take care of yourself. Blah blah blah. And find positive people in your life. Find role models who they actually took fear by the horns and they ran with it and they improved their life. They didn't let it stop them. Shout out to Coach K when you're talking about not letting it be limiting and impacting the quality of your life. So not just stopping you from
Mm-hmm.
doing things. You might be doing some things, but the quality of your life is not at its best because of that limiting belief associated to fear. Do what you got to
Yep.
do. Shout out to BMU, CBN, and everyone here on the network. Thank you, Coach K, for allowing us to have this conversation. What do you want to close out? What do you want to close us out with?
Honestly, I want to close it out with what you just said because that was good. You hit on every all the pieces. And I do want to add, Lady Navova said no Pringles. So no Pringles? Question mark. You're muted.
I'm gonna get my electric lights back up for what I missed today with no drinking, chicken sandwich. Actually, I have two of these bad boys, and because the other trick is you don't want to overdo it. The other day I almost ate
Right.
a whole cow.
Yeah. You want to like
So
break it. Right.
yeah,
I
yeah,
get it.
yeah, yeah. So thank
Okay.
you.
No Pringles today, Lady Navella. You're
No
funny.
Pringles. No,
That made me
no. I
laugh.
haven't done those in a while.
But yes, I just will second what Dr. Nakumbe said, and I just hope people really, take this information in and just consider it. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to remain the same, but also what's that costing you? Again, I think thinking of the consequences of avoiding the thing that we're afraid of, sometimes I think is greater than the fear itself. So thank you again, Doc, for the show that we have on Thursdays, and of course, Black Women Unfiltered for allowing us to do so. CBN running the back, you're awesome, and everyone in the chat, Lady Navoa, Dragon, Tommy B for showing up, Quentin, especially Blaze, all the great questions. Kasim, thank you all, and please share, like the video, all of it, and we'll see you next time. Right?
Peace.
Bye, y'all.
Subscribe now.